To you, the completely fully awakened one, the endowed transcendent destroyer, the glorious conqueror, the subduer from the secular clan, I prostrate, make offerings, and go for refuge. Once humans, you were born on this earth, you paced out 7 strides, then said, I am supreme in this world. To you who were wise then, I prostrate. With pure form supremely pure, wisdom ocean like a golden mountain, fame that blazes in the 3 worlds, winner of the best, Lord, to you I prostrate. The supreme sign, space like a spotless moon, color like gold, to you I prostrate. Free like you, the 3 worlds are not, incomparably wise one, to you I prostrate. The Saviour having great compassion, the Founder having all understanding, the field of mirror with qualities like a vast ocean, to you the one gone to thusness I prostrate. The purity that frees one from attachment, the virtue that frees one from the lower realms, the one path, the sublime reality, to the Dhamma that pacifies I prostrate. You also show the path to liberation, the holy field qualified with realizations. Homage to the Supreme Buddha, homage to the Dharma refuge, homage to the great Sangha, to all 3 devout homage, to all worthy of respect. Supreme all realms happens in most aspects, with supreme faith I pay homage. Commit all virtuous actions. Supreme thoroughly, this is the teaching of the Buddha. A star of visual liberation. See conditioned things as such. Through these merits may sentient beings attain the rank of all seeing.
Happiness is not other than war. War is also not other than emptiness. In the same way, fear, discrimination, composition, practice, and consciousness are characteristic therefore, no feeling, no discrimination, no compositional practice, no consciousness. No smoking, no eating, no visual form, no sound, no tone, no form, no function, no phenomena. There is no identity, including no mind only, and no mental consciousness only. There is no ignorance, no extinction of ignorance, and so on up to and including no aging and death, and no extinction of aging and death. Similarly, there is no suffering, origination, cessation, and path. There is no exalted wisdom, no attainment, and also no non-attainment. Shariputra, therefore, because there is no attainment, bodhisattvas rely on and dwell in the perfection of wisdom, the mind without obscuration and without fear. Having completely passed beyond error, they reach the end point of nirvana. All the Buddhas who dwelt in the three times, also manifestly completely awakened to unsurpassable, perfect, complete enlightenment, in reliance on the perfection of wisdom. Therefore, the mantra of the perfection of wisdom, the mantra of great knowledge, the unsurpassed mantra, the mantra equal to the unequaled, the mantra that thoroughly pacifies all suffering, to be known as the truth since it is not false. The mantra of the perfection of wisdom is declared. Chayata gate gate paragate parasamgate bodhisattva. Shariputra, the bodhisattva Mahasattva, should train in the profound perfection of wisdom like that. Then the Bhagavan arose from that concentration and commended the bodhisattva Arya Avalokiteshvara, saying, well said, son of a lineage. It is like that, it is like that. One should practice a profound perfection of wisdom just as you are. Even the Tathagatas rejoiced. When the Bhagavan having thus spoken, the venerable Shariputra, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva Arya Avalokiteshvara, those surrounding in their entirety along with the world of gods, humans, asuras, and Gandharvas, were overjoyed and highly praised that spoken by the Bhagavan. To page 25 for the short mandala.
Sangye Shindo Mete Waji Choko Nanda Shinla Chupasho Lama Kamba Chinamji Chökü Kala Kinze Jinjini Chitara Tsambe Duchen Zimmala Sage Chögü Chab Abdu So Guru Radna Mandala Kamriyataya Sanje Chodan Soji Chonama Chanjo Bado Dani Japsuchi Dagi Chujin Jive Sonamji Dola Pinji Sanje Dobra Sanje Chodan Soji Chonama Chanjo Bado Dani Japsuchi Dagi Chujin Jive Sonamji Dola Pinji Sanje Dobra Sanje Chodan Soji Chonama Chanjo Bado Dani Japsuchi Dagi Chujin Jive Sonamji Dola Pinji Sanje Dobra Konge de Veni Sove Dao Daji Bangwani Temeshini Dezere Godam de la Chazelo Tony Ninja Sunday Jubela Shishi Sinde Kanche Dinde Chana Bemo Dinde Gazala Sawa de Version de Nandush Then the Lama Ramboje, Davi Ningra Mandishone, Godin Chimbegone, Sunday, Goson to Jing to the so. I down so Gulong com this Jaro, nothing in the near the Lamrim Somi Zanda Samba Sango Sag Talambre, Nimatirine, Yang Samba Sanguchi Chito Chicken, Th, Zindania Sama. Simji Shen Pember to be actually Sim Sambo. You chidi is or the Gunoya which shows. No, sir. Again, we should assume the correct motivation. That is, we're going to study and listen to the Lamrim, and that the method of that motivation should be one of kind heart, thinking that today, again, I'm going to generate that kind heart. And by listening to this Lamrim, I'm going to only, just for the benefit of sentient beings, to that end, correct the intention.
Ai, ta kawa gom anan jule samba. Mixer tiring samba sawa ji yu tinjerwa kawa goms.
Now rejoice, thinking that one has specially generated afresh this kind hearted motivation. Rejoice.
はい、当然做 breathing exercise 是吧？这是吧
？Now to do some breathing exercise.
はい、だゴムです。就 breathing meditation です吧
Moving to breathing meditation.
예, 다, 저 기진, 나저我这说了，但南北去医院看这这些菜，
Mm-hmm.
人家 This Shegware was Chadi Yoris,
Yes.
this Habe Source. Chasunda, Nanda di Gupusum Zobegone Gula de was Pinzo Gilek Cheve Dumbe Gusad, Pinzo Gilek Cheve said. Cheve said the Sado Dicasana. Ani Pusum Sobe Gu Tanzo Sanjeji Commantave di Ani Jume Gemele de Choma Maris. Ani Guzo Tanzan Tian be Gutaye Varva, Pag de Meva. Tindejila Dene and Sanjeji good chore is that the Tsingan Tangbo de Shegi or
So we left off looking at the broad overview of Buddha Dharma and how to practice it. We have some more to look at that from the first verse. So we're looking at firstly how the body of a Buddha doesn't come about from no cause, rather that it is the attribution or the result of limitless causes, excellent virtues as it says here. Yes.
다 나 유가를 되네로 유 무슨 속월에 되네 총이나 아니 다 유가를 되네 총으로 시행인데 다 유들라야 소남지 초 이시기 초 소남지 초로 소남지 초 빠드면 봐 초스나 다 개월 봐 개월 소남지 초 빠드면 봐 속월에 되네 아니 총으로스다
So then if we're to ask what are these excellent causes that go to make up the body of a Buddha, it is the two vast collections of merit and wisdom. So in the first hand, the merit collection is made up of limitless virtues.
나 소남스나 가르라고 그래. 로야.
네.
미국 통화 여러에서나 소남기 데비딩은 좀 미국 통화 여러에서 소남 코랑 좀 미국 통화 말해. 뉴바제레서 뉴바.
If we're to ask what then is merit, can you see it? Well, you can see the result of the merit, but you can't see merit itself because merit itself is a potency, a potential.
제가 단다디 고물로지 리포트 주변은 내송다. 개와디 교군 소나미시 초사디 소나미시 레주에 담보군이 도와셔. 개와디 교군sla도 개와디 개와세나 개와세야디 말아서 되래. 다 미나레 둔두스나레 질레 펜도체디 스스심나라 갈한란지도 스스심나라 갈한란지 용되기도. 어디 딜라다 디도기 아니 스스심라야 가워당 펜심당 근데 요나 아니 딜라데네 류지 밀레펜도치야 나기 밀레펜도치야 어디 연구로 틴데기 아니 중앙을데네 아니 대부 가려 연구를 해서나 라데와 미디어와 신데와 연구도 대화디 디지 연구도 디지디 대부로 당한도 내가 된데 셰비너로 디지디 인도 세상다 산제지 고만데 땡데데베 디지 간절로 탄다 수수 밀려야지 니마니마라 간둡지도 여후다 보다로 제비나 갈래지 수수래야 삼바대오당 아니 직배 삼바지부당 아니 딘데지 용되기도 하고로 디 내가 브라버지로 하고 니마 직스 니마 니스네 다디야 때문에 칭도장가라 아니 산제세야 돼 땡데데베 디지 유어메베 디지 이러와 어디 연구여러 와다 어딜야다 데베티브 소남지 데부사디 용다 고전직 잠나든 데로지 간에 삼직다 여러스로
We hear from the protector Arya Nagarjuna in his collection of reasonings that by these collections of merit and wisdom may all sentient beings attain to the fruit of the two bodies of a Buddha, the mind and the body and mind of a Buddha in dependence on these merits. So what this is alluding to is these two collections, these vast collections of merit and wisdom. So what are the virtues we're talking about here that Nagarjuna is alluding to? It is the fact, basically, that humans and animals all want to be happy, and when they experience that sense of well-being, that sense of mental and physical well-being, is coming from that benefiting intention. So therefore, if the mind has these virtues and creates these virtues, what we come to find is that the resultant physical, the body and the verbal attributes are good in a resultant sense, in a fruitant sense. So now this works in terms of self and other. So if one has that intention, then not only is self get these good results physically and verbally, but so do others. So that's the happiness in that sense of the virtue that's been alluded to by the two collections. Now, Buddha has completed that twofold set of merits and wisdoms. We, on the other hand, are putting effort into it. And if we put effort into it day by day, 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, so it becomes very stable, eventually we will be able to complete that collection and have stability of mental well-being. So what we're talking about is a type of permanent bliss that we're going for, which the Buddha has, which is irreversible. But we're at the stage of, we're in the temporary level. We have to put effort into it.
세상 교디 소남이 시 초사데 소남이 시 레주메 소남지 초다 이시기 초사 삭스류다야 클럭로 루소라 소남지 초사야데 베나당하나도 된데 짐바당야 수림송야 수보kom야 아니 띵인진 kom야 어디서 상마 델레템베 네 지 용고도 안 하는 미질래야 지 님바라고 지때나 님 카베 되게 가오라 유릉부 되거다 미질래야
Yes.
미방고도 지래 지 칼라라고 시대위나 디두두게 수두두게 수수게 다 밀레 편도 제베기 아니 지 가나라고 지 용고도 되게 지 디베 유릉부 되거다 데스 두저릭도 소남지 초사고라 소소래 이식 소사데네 다 돈이도 벌어 돈이도 별로게 차고에 네 초들라 이식이 초사고라 소남이 시래제 소남지 초다 이식이 초래 중에 엔 담보군이 더셔스도 네 란도 주고다 신도 수고스도 란도 주고다 신도 수고스도 네 산제지 란도 주고도 산제기 셈데체 신도 수고사데네 두절라 편도체라 네 두고 롱고다 산제지 고도스도 용고여라 어디 묘람디 나라와다 실람게 도다데 지 디나네 칼랑 감사지 되는거더라.
So therefore, as Nagarjuna alludes to, by the collection or having amassed this great collection of method and wisdom, may beings get the two bodies of a Buddha. So this is talking about, firstly, on the method side or the merit side. What's being amassed here are these perfections. So, for example, the wish to give, the paramita of generosity, effort, the patience perfections, all of these things on the method side of the path, right up to concentration. So, for example, when you, just in an immediate level, when you give some food to a beggar, and they experience great joy from that small act of giving them food, it could satiate them for a long time. Well, that type of joy that they experience over a long period is that very thing, the collection of method, the collection of merit from giving. So that is on the method side of the collection, or the merit side. And then lastly, perfecting the wisdom side is when we study and try to cultivate the wisdom consciousness, the valid wisdom path, realizing reality, realizing emptiness. So this goes to the yeshi, or the primordial wisdom side of the twofold collection. Therefore, by the collection of these two, amassed two of merit and wisdom, may sentient beings attribute the two bodies. Now, the two bodies are twofold, in that the first body of wisdom is really for the Buddha's, for the Buddha's mind, so for the self. But what happens when that ripens, the Dharmakaya body of a Buddha mentally ripens, is that spontaneously there are two bodies that work for others, the Manakaya and Sabhavakaya. So therefore, straight away, benefit self and others. The two needs are assumed. Yes.
다단다디 이시기 초사 돈이도 별로 써야 되나다 낭배추기 따르기 남샤트네 용고여로.
Yes.
제단디 다디 지난 낭배 수에셔서로 많이 봐. 싱고변내줄 차대여로. 근데 낭배 따릅슬라변데 낭배 수에셔서 싫어. 배낭은저 단다 이슈기 God your love the issue chuluk sueshen yorode. Any Hindu which yoresan Nangbege Tadrup said, Nangbala Yube source, Nangba Mayila Tadrup the Mavis or Tende Maresti, Unguenezula, and Chutamje Chigla Chigdinge, Teodi, Tinguenezuri Mishige, Tinangbe South Susan Yokemara, Nangbage, the Nguenezu Yoa de la Mingdita, Tadrups Mingde Tares, or Tende Dudup Chigla Chigdene Chung with a Mingde Tare, the Nguenezula Chigla Chigdene Chung the Yuenzan, Tende Chung Shasta Mishige. Chigla chigden re shamishuchi, chigla chigmadeni any shuje yangachi mindu usta. Ganzo god nashi bechi gods do kana domegi one you dinde dogdo chig nye mindu usta kanda pardin suden resha sirwa chigla chigden je dene tugudu mishichiga. Mademba tuya chi mindu usta. De nangbe tadugi shedan de ngoyne zu dan tumba shegi yor esrwa de dan nedan de hago we de hamagona na.
What we should come to know in terms of the wisdom side of the path, this collection related to wisdom, primordial wisdom and emptiness, is the following. The wisdom consciousness, creating a valid mind, realizing that, realizing emptiness, is very much in terms of establishing the view within Buddhism. Now, this view within Buddhism is very much in line with the way things are in reality, the entityness of things. This is not something that was made up by the Buddha or someone. It is a reality. So you might have these other faiths that believe in perhaps a theistic or creator God, like the Christians believe in God. The Hindus also have their God. But in terms of the Buddhist view of reality, that things lack intrinsic existence, that is in reality whether you believe in it or not. So whether you're a Buddhist or not, that is very much the nature of things. Why is that the case? Because all things and events come into dependence in terms of their other dependency or their dependent origination. So all phenomena are interdependent, other dependent, therefore they lack intrinsic existence. This is a reality. There is no autonomous owner of phenomena or creator of phenomena. Now, in terms of emptiness, this is something that we should know, we should come to know. No. She did what?
Oh, Nangele de she was. Dina la two there, da. Dujetamje Midawa res, Sungwareta. When is it Midawa res? Midawa sade, you do res. Gaji, you do yours. Dujetamje, Jessic, Shujeri. So do. Tanga Nangba means, not Duje, not Jiki means, there's a Mendo. Nangba Main, Sangma, you do, Jig do. This Tata, not Nangba me, Duje Mido killing, the Nangwa killing, the Nangba Jigwala Mishangala, Yomari, the Slazamendo, and Nangwa Main, Sangma. Meshigo, Rajago, Shigo, Jigo, Sangma, Zumbling Koran, Jigo, and me Jigo, the Suchik, there's a Mendo, I wrote the Midawa, this. The reality, because of Nuba Chimbo. She was red or Ryan.
So then again, if we look at the 4 seals of a Buddhist, then the first one is that all compound things are impermanent. Secondly, that all feelings are in the nature of dissatisfaction, all emotions are contaminated. Thirdly, that all phenomena lack self. And finally, nirvana is peace. Just looking at this first one, that all compound things are subject to disintegration, they're impermanent. Well, if you say I'm not a Buddhist and I'm not going to change, that controverts reality. Or because I'm not a Buddhist, I don't have to change and I'm not affected by that first premise of all compounds. Well, you won't find anyone in the world that has a seat there taking that position, because in reality, we all are subject to this first momentary disintegration, that first truth.
Dunge was adding, though Sajan Yolimbe Pumbu led on Yumong, suggests a Sabasa de Yumonche. Tiwong Chungdeva, Nangwe de Shigio, who Jujen, Benayaya, Samlo Danger, Manzu Ludende, and some Canadian Chungre, some down the Pamekudala de Nechung, the Kalinchigora.
Yes.
The Tikon la Condition said the Tua de Lenja word.
Yes.
Take home like this chore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if we look at this second of the 4 seals, that all contaminated feelings or emotions are in the nature of dissatisfaction. Well, we're looking at the 5 aggregates, the 5 contaminated aggregates subject to clinging, isn't it? And what we come to see is that they're in the nature of contamination. They are a product of cause and conditions. So then, if we look at it on the level of the body's cause is the sperm and ovum of the parents. But then if you go back further than that, the question comes, what's the cause behind the cause of that? How do you trace that back? You need an answer here.
그래서 낭배 디 레다 뉴몰 되네 총을 레고 온 총을 레디야 아니 군노다 뉴모디 군노는 시작으로 단대가 되라 제가 군노 뉴몰 되네 총을 해서 다디 낭배 시고 되면은 되면에 대시지 야고 수직이 요마르던다로 유 뉴몰 되네 총을 찍찍 줌내직 안저 홍보 다 다대내가라 삭제해서 뉴모다 제버려서 안저 홍보디 뉴모다 제대해서 뉴모 가rel라디 되자시단 공동하게 잘스다 도저 타도 텐심 뉴슈 도저 창마레스다 제조디 요아데스다 제가 아니 코 요진제 라서 그러다 유 뉴모라데네 총아 마세
오케이
뭐네가들라 님돌라야 제외 삭제에서 어디 예외되는 덴베되는 코조 그래라 덴베되는 코조 그래 제바데 덴베되는 코조 그래 나라고다 제스도 나라고 요어와 라고 요어서 제가 뉴모다 삭바단 제스도 뉴모다 제 먼저 풍부디 님돌라야 뉴모디 다 뉴모디라다 뭔데 주디 아니 저랑도 되게 이모션 컨트롤시도 문들라고도 그 문주디요래 문주 매외 코베 많이 국제 대대래 매고 랑쳐져
알레 배 잡으시라
겐춘주 태우다 뿡 라앙거리야 제가 네 진짜라 동해 그런 시를 사제 tum제 동해 왔으니 그 겐지 태우다 남산 동해 차로다 겐지 매디 동해 매외서 겐지도 동해 예외서
로버를 잡으시
뭐 코난라 동해 그런 시 차대요 그랬을 뒤에 가 낭범에 가 동해 용금에서 저면도 와다 맹가나 되니 만차 낭범만이 칸데다 점블링나라 맹가나 돈이 만차 낭범 유뉴로 먼저 민보그 집이나 낭범 자접에 유뉴로
yes
맹가나라 도제 동해 냐니디 예상마 낭베 동해 사제 동해 켈링도 낭벌메시 동해 요마르 세면도 낭범만이 상무 맹가나라 상가접제 되더라
알겠습니다
세고 쇼래도 하다 조조페 응어인의 주의에서 와도서 켈레 제나 마제나 예예 레스타 간다 돼 레스트
So then again, we're saying what's the cause behind having a body that goes through difficulties in the sense that the body we have being contaminated, we said that it's a product physically of the parent sperm and egg, but looking deeper than that from the perspective of Buddha Dharma, we would say that it's a product of karma and disturbing emotions. But primarily amongst those two, the afflicted states, the delusions, the disturbing thought obscurations, of which are because we have a motive when we act, overpowered by those, they carry a result. So what's the nature of these afflicted mental states, these disturbing thought obscurations? We have desire, we have anger, we have jealousy, we have pride, we have competitiveness, all of that. And as soon as you have an action that has that behind it in terms of its motive, then you're going to get a contaminated result. So that means that the very body we have, if you will, is together with the result of those motivated minds. So for example, a body has hands. So whether or not you are experiencing these afflictions directly, what we come to see is that because they're in the nature of dissatisfaction, they're almost hidden there waiting to come out or waiting to cause a problem. So for example, when you're sleeping, you might not see these afflicted states manifest, but just because they're the nature of things, just because our body is a product of these afflicted states, then the result will come at some time or another. To give an example of this, everyone in this world will experience the suffering of the body, this kind of contaminated result, whether they are Buddhist or not. Out of 100 people, out of 100% of people, only a small number, we would say, are Buddhist, correct? Those that might believe in this second of the four seals. But everyone has to queue up and go to the hospital the same. So that's saying that whether you're Buddhist or not, you're subject to this reality, whether you believe in it or not, that we have these sufferings of contaminated bodies.
다 숨버데 최던제 동신 다음에 오세요. 다 동반이 동신 다음에 오세요. 먼저 세미나로 가르치고 오래로.
Yeah.
간라 때문에 양가와 랑가와 직시하고 여러. 자자를 꺼내야고도 자자 자탄 유중원에 두대베 소스도. 당외에 내주디 자자 자탄 싱그 파스션 조지. 차대기 요래서 봐. 제가 자자 자탄 유중원에 두어디 요마레스 가래 동벌에서는 자자 자탄 동벌에서 봐. 어디 시고르다디 디 동반이 있어야 돼 어딜 거고 요래서 지단다디 디셰디 다때지 롭종체 딜라 삼노땅 치고 요르 렐하고 요 말에서
The third seal that all phenomena are in the nature of non-self is the fact that we would project an inherence or reify an object, maybe projecting onto that object 100%, thinking it's solidly intrinsic from the object side. But in reality, not one iota of that object is existing from its own side. And that lack of the intrinsic nature of that object is this third seal. Now, without studying this deeper, it's quite difficult to go into it in a deep way, but that's the essence of it.
제가 딜라야 아니 좀 된대지 타이어도에 저공에 숭신 제르모칭 좀 된대지 숭디 아니 도 타이어바 샘지 타이어에 아니 도에 저공에 치두 아니 좀 된대지 숭주 나샤 요레스 어디 디나네 아니 단다 동만이 도당 그런 게 림바디게데 좀 된대지 아니 도 부순소가 숭라 되어봤어야 디나네마다 교용고요로
excellent. Yeah. Now, this understanding of the nature of reality in terms of things lacking any type of inherence or intrinsic existence, being empty of that, this third line down in the first verse, whose speech fulfills the hopes of infinite transmigratory beings, that relates to this point. The speech is the result of the mind, which teaches beings about such things.
좀 된데 영망 알아서나시 봐. 그래서 영마 셰바. 좀 된데 영망 알아서 미 타만나시 깔레 잡지. 아니 두두두시 깔레 잡지. 소남사. 겨와사 밀레 펜도치. 로스콤 잡. 근데 제발 때네 타두기 다 된데데베. 된데데베 디기 총어레서 봐. 좀 된데 상제네. 뒤절마 최송윤 두장가라 당보 뒤제 캄다 메와 뒤제 람상 동반이 송요 말이 제가
Okay.
뒤제 탐제 아니 미다고레스로 야나 템버투 요레스로 다음에 오레스 란제트베제 유타라 과드메버레스 템버투 요레스 다 자자 야 ngobu 탐도 ngo봉에라 두고레스 셰바제라 두고레스 된데게 딘시 총고나라 니 두송샤요로다 당보 남샤디 두송으로 걸로 당보라 좀 된데 총고 당보송도 콜로를 무슨 송으로 아주 용다 당보電子 총고라 덴바시기 남샤 송인데 아니 어두스 코라 주베림바 단 코라 두베림바 다데 락바 시에라 간다 락바지가 남샤 시에로
In this sense, we can remember that initially the Buddha was ordinary just like us, just the same as we are. But due to putting tremendous effort in amassing these vast collections of merit and wisdom, got that state of ultimate bliss, the fruition of enlightenment, mental and physical. Now, in that sense, then, whose speech fulfills the needs of all beings, when Buddha first taught the first turning of the wheel, the Four Noble Truths, he did not teach the emptiness initially in its deep entirety. He taught according to the dispositions and the karmic, the karmic latencies, if you will, of the beings, according to what they could understand. So in that sense, he went teaching initially that there is a self. To some extent, the self does exist, and then he went more subtle for some, saying, there's a substantially existent self of persons, and then slowly going from more gross to subtle. So he did it in this manner, and when he first taught the Four Noble Truths openly from gross to subtle.
다드네 니 모란주베 다두브로 체연이야. 주 내가 심잠벌다 심잠을이나 나 뭐, 치드는 투비어 말했어. 와 템버 투브레데 치드는 투비어 말했어. 와
Yeah.
치드는 투부 말에데 템버 투비어에서 남샤 직시제 때 차로 때 당선으로.
And then going a bit more subtle, because Lord Buddha was going from gross to subtle when it came to so those initial first teachings were to do with the first schools of tenets, that there is kind of like a substantial degree of existence. And then secondly, when it came to the mind-only school, teaching that, external objects don't exist truly, but the mind exists truly. So it's more subtle again.
다드네 모란주벨레데 다 템버 투비어 말했어. 이나야 자자 응압지 담벌로 파샤 자자 응압지 담벌 유중원의 수투셔요. 애송으로다.
But getting more subtle when Lord Buddha taught the Middle Way Autonomous School, there's no true existence, but there is 50% that comes from the subjective mind and then 50% from the object side. So that is there.
That's never sometimes 다 유중원의 제로를 자자 자담벌로 파셔 소션 요레스. 다데레 타두게 다두데 두데 두스네. 타에 드베로 꼬메 숭세 도당 림바데 두스레 다와.
So, and then finally the ultimate view of the Majjhimika Prasangika, that phenomena don't exist, not even, there's 0% existing from its own side. All phenomena are just merely designated by mind. And this final view of the conqueror's intent, where it says, whose speech fulfills the hopes of infinite transmigratory beings from gross to subtle.
제가다 디 동반이게 디간라 삼노데 다나가서 타르바스야 디 두비알라 삼노레기요레와 디 딩어서 삼노 땅톤나 야고요르다 땅 땅기요라 jan서 다 당보 남사 동반이 있어야 돼 고마르들레 당봉이라 로와 뒤제 미다고 임바데 삼노다네와 로와 ngaranzo 단다 딱과 임베 줌진 삼노단제 계산게가 드링게가 미가시에 시야 주는 등문다로와
Yes.
시야 마테나나 아니 손조 쇼제 체네 빼 아니 데라 칼레 짭짭짭짭짭 아니 감사지레 수불레 레가 고야 망타제 아니 타마들 맹가나 립데거라
Yeah.
디 가르된 것은 디 땅진 치타로 땅진 치타네 봐 땅진 치타디 수수 직도고요 수수 주어도고요 디 몰레마 체베체 주어는 도고요 봐 주어 도고요 디 방달라 가르스나 로레레 바드데 바디 제타주 땅거래 봐 바드레 바디다한테 가서는 다 직도고요다 조도고요르세 린데고르들레 탄도 바드레 바디 당기레가 대기여 상 탁고 징기요레로.
Yeah. So it's good for us to think that there are these sequential stages that we have to go through in terms of liberation and emptiness. Think on it in sequence. Don't think that one needs to understand the final emptiness all in one go, or suddenly understand all of it. It's much more important to think first, okay, so there is this impermanence of the person. Start on that level, that we are impermanent people. Because there are some who would think the opposite of that, and would never think that they're going to die, thinking that they are the same person that they were yesterday. Or putting so much effort into the work and, so much really flogging the body so that the body gets exhausted and sick and they end up in hospital. That's also very strongly clinging to a permanent sense of self. In actual fact, when the birthdays come around, it should be a reminder that we are impermanent and changing, and that we have that strong sense of clinging to, I won't die.
다데 딜레 다 주변에 대야시람 대세는 거다 기부제 대어라 야구제 대 동해 마세요제 대드나 가서 대 하마고자 아니 가서 동해 다 동해 망보지니 수수스다 다야 삼노당인데 동해디 수수 셈게 당진시에 온게 동해 연거와 아니 메시베 온게다 메시오레 근데 내가 상담도 아니 주어디 간데도도 상담도 주연라 되네 주어도 여바들 와 유단 jen라 되네 주어도 여바들 레마시지게 수치게 수수디도 수선져요 말아 수수게 주연 다 주연세야 돼배 자첨벌에 와 주연 그 릭직 먼저 하고 그래 계산 다른 쇼베 임바 가시에 둘랑에만 임바 가시에 다왕에만 가시에 롱에만 임바 하고 그래 주연 릭직 된 먼저 자왕가만가만에 요래 드즈릭도 먼저 단다 하고 말해 와네 규진을 되는 중원세야 돼. 교도야 돼. 규진 되는 중거리에서 디조베 자체 뭐 띵서고. 문에시나 렌데 당 준대가 남셔야 돼. 동반이래 그냥 또 가봐야 돼. 봐. 동반이래 자자 자또 갈래 가야 돼. 동반이 가져 덴버드에 동안에 다 하고서나 다 가라고 하고. 디딜레라고 그래도 왔다. 내라고 소래다. 하고 제가 내제로 렌다 그랬다. 윤대가 남셔야 되다. 렌데가 남셔야 돼. 빼때 타메워 무메워다. 타메워 무메워. 배낭가란서 example 단당 안서 배낭안서 디나는 데 여디제데. 안서 루루차 유진 카르상다는데. 담보 진짜 여와디 캡라 하고서 아니 딘데르 질린데 안라 진짜 연대 총송었어요. 유진 딘데지는 안서 하고다. 아니 로바지게 딘데 도그르스도 펜다 여르스도 도스 유진으로 왔다. 뒤에 잡로 가르 열어서 되네 야야야야야 진짜 규제 망보지 열 당하는서 되나 규제인데 학과도 낭주 당 더이베 더웠어야 돼 레라고 켜는 요 말에 레라고 매버딩 하는서 돼 세부도 왔다 미 용구도 영화를 장가야 말에 더월 돼 나란서 쳐서지고 말에 곰발레 다 그래 곰발레 다 빼망고 용거래 다 빼망고 도그래 봐봐 그래서 곰발레 정말 자와체 곰발 내대냐 말에 대바당 용화체나 패진 파도니 망아요래로 자와 곰발 용이 탄래 대바 제가 저절에 다 그래 미용이 휴용거를 파도거를 수용만은 대화신이 돼 유제에게 대화디 사버지면은 저는 나눠서 단다 대화 어스레지 겨왕아마데 나눠서 겨왕아마데 렌데로 어스 샤셔와 다 유제인데 대화에 왔을 때네 단당 가서 데라 데스 대두고 돌아
So then, if it's the case that there is this impermanence, why not be happy and go with that? Try to understand that impermanence, but do one's best within that to be happy there, not to, because not seeing that causes one to suffer more. That's what's being alluded to here. So the mind that grasps at the body or the self being permanent is really a kind of ignorant mind. It's an unknowing mind, and that creates a suffering right there. So there's two levels. We are ignorant of the fact that there's causes and conditions, and we're just ignorant per se. And in that sense, no one really made that happen. That is just the nature of things, that we are going through this state of disintegration. So then, if we think on the level of that causality of causes and conditions, it's very, very vast. It's so profound. That there's yesterday, and then there's months before, years before, tracing these causes and conditions back, going back still further. Some of us who may be able to even be aware of past lives. So thinking on the profundity of the process of change and cause in that sense, how vast it is. So in that sense, we could say this law of causality, of cause and result, karma, is much deeper and more profound than cessation and emptiness in its kind of varieties of cause and effect. Because once you have cessation, you just have the mere cessation of the appearance, and that's it. But in terms of causality and karma, the limit is unfathomable. Because let's just take the example of all of us here that are gathered here. Okay, so we're here and we all came together to be here through different causes and conditions. Some of us might have seen an advertisement for this class, or some friend might have said, oh, there's a class on at the Dharma Center, better go there. So that's just like one cause for us coming here. But then to understand the causes behind all of that, going back, and in the context of Buddha Dharma is not easy, these interconnected causes. So in the sense of just this Dharma center, there's people coming and going and coming and going, and what are the causes and conditions behind that? That goes back and back. It's very vast. And it's the same with the monastery. When we look at the monasteries, there are monks coming, some staying, some leaving, probably more leaving than coming now. And all of the causes behind them doing these things are very vast. So we can, to some extent, say that we're here by the merits of our past lives, we are here. And maybe we can stay a bit just on that premise.
제가 다디 운도를 셈기 운도 강에 망보지 수수 셈단단게 소용으로
Yes.
다 주미 이제 남달람나 디그로 다디 거래 잡고는 다들라 유yen 미유 체니 게 직다 수수 셈라 검시 임배 온게 계단이 아니 겨왕함에 바자 두부 온게 계단 다 된대기 제들라 검싱인 바다 겨왕함에 봉싱인 배 온게 계단 망보 쉬우지 요요인자 주미지 남도 온게 항아서 강에 망보시 요데 거라 다 곰라오시도 잡제르와 셈 때즈파 직지 우중우가 장가라오시 네제 가만히 숨지 되지는가 간도에 기부더와 와 가만히 숨지 네 까마직 되지 파 우로 상 당가접을 시대도이나 쭈쇼도 되지는 간다 어디를 다 곡된 까마직이 곡된라랑 다 까마직 까마니 까마숨 안 되스 야야야 아니 주주직 제가 주주직 근데 내 니마직 다워직 로직 두세 네 간다베 가도이나 다가란 대된 여기다 직직 자산지 유기다 곡된데 가도이네 다된데 왜 대화를 될라야 아니 뇌지디다 치뇌지 가져이나 뇌도고요 말 빼낭하라서 욱중을 검자데 치뇌지디게 여러 왕한서
여러
이나 디네가블랑 아주 심란라 디기도 와라 디스 딘데가 삼단위나 당원에 시වත් 곡된사지다 용사를 주미지 남도 디게 파가스나나 딘데 디기지 기워지 용사를 삼삼시 딘데 충분히나 아니 신도 낭배추 그 좋아되다 딘데 레버다 되면은다 면람자 마네탕 차생 다카고래 가고 싶다래도 레도 레샤다데요.
Really, the reason we have problems so much is a product of our thoughts, what are called sumayishiga namdok, which means the inappropriate mental constructs. These thoughts we have make the problems for us, and some of that's because we focus incorrectly on our objects, and some of that's because we develop these bad habits over time. So these kind of two things. Some of us have these habitual negative habits. In this life, we are creating these, but we're also bringing these because we're habituated with these afflicted attitudes from past lives. And that's really what creates these invalid thoughts and projections that we make, that make the suffering result. Now, in terms of these problems, we're talking about the cessation of that. So just by meditating 1, 2, 3 minutes, we might get a cessation of those thoughts. We might get a break from them. How happy is that? How happy is one when the mind is relaxed? You might get what? A 1-minute cessation. And meaning a cessation from the thought. And then slowly that increases to 2, 3 minutes. And then maybe half an hour, and then as we become more acquainted, 1 day or a month. So then if we look at Lord Buddha's case, he's taken that practice of stopping the inappropriate mental constructs to be permanent. So he's gotten a true cessation so that these thought processes don't come back. But for us, we have to be determined to do it step by step. But in short, just by meditating, we start to get a break from those mental constructs, these invalid mental thoughts, and that really is a taste of Buddha Dharma. That's what we're going for. You're not going to get a relaxed mind and a break from the thoughts by prayer, by prostrations, or just by doing mantras. Not at all. You have to do the work with the mind.
지상 심지 강에데 심le 총인자 심이 세고라
Yeah.
다데 멜람점네 촌에 세리면도 저다 수 삼노단제 세고다 삼노단야라 당고데 삼노 템보 거래 아니 셰럽 거래 다 산제 고마도야라야 동니 똑버치고 또 산제 고마도 도고야 말아 찬주기셈 닝지 도도 고무고여라 도즈메나 야 산지 고마 톱투고요 말아.
Right. So then, if it's a mind that suffers, it is a mind that can cease that suffering. So not by prayer. The first stage of ceasing the suffering in the mind is stability of mind. So you have to cultivate a stable mind. And then further and above that, a mind that has wisdom, the discriminating insight. But that a stable mind with wisdom, karma abiding in special insight, also is not enough. You have to have bodhicitta, heart of altruism, and renunciation to get the result of Buddhahood.
제단한다 우마주베는 라단다 식타마데네 요라 반데 다와도 군조드니 샤인가고 제주치 응베 제오드니 껴응베 든데다네 게벨롱기 슌도지 슉덥지 자웨인데 자제 파르셔도스 군조드니 샤인가고 제주스 빼난 앙바지라 쇼바니에나 아니 프제 자제 파르를 도그러라.
Yes.
테나시 에네지 군조기 남샤 탑 찬주기 셈다 닝제단 진바당 진바당 수련선 소고물라서와 대다당 아니 셰럽 돈이도 왜 셰럽 디니 숭도 되어 또기 아니 코베자즈 파르도 도제 산제지 고마 토발라 토바디 용그레세 어디 숭도 빼대는데다 이제 닝제부 쉬도 되어와 공부데 반데 다와타고 우만주바나요라.
With towards the end of Chandrakirti's entrance to the middle way, we have an excellent example of this where it says, with the two wings of the relative bodhicitta and that of the wisdom of the ultimate nature of things, this one can cross the ocean of samsara and reach the farther shore of liberation or enlightenment. So this is saying that you need the union or the inseparability of the two, of method and wisdom, to traverse the ocean of samsara. So that first wing of the conventional truth, we're going to have the bodhicitta, the great compassion, these paramita things, on the one hand, these conventions, these ground things, and on the other hand, the other wing is going to be with the wisdom side. So it's a very beautiful analogy given there of the process.
다 주체는 산제지 고마 토변도 산제지 에네 지 동반이 남샤다 렌데가 남샤 타시 타와 군섭지 남샤다 네 단당고 남샤 타시 타와 네 식도고요레스 제다 제단데라야 네 투 푸순소바 네 투를 떼어 봤어요. 네 말루 시자 지신 시베 투 사데 말루 시자스 말루 사데 아직 동반이 남샤다 렌데 남샤 타시 타와 찍겨 말루바 ane sheja chidawa ta chinyiwa ge en ji diningo yeme de ne siktu ya de yongo yore de siktu ya nuwa de ane sanje ji tugi yonde shege yoro.
Okay, so now carrying on from that, the last line in the first verse of our Lamrim text, Hymn for Experience, whose mind perceives all objects of knowledge. So what we have here is two things. One is that understanding the nature of phenomena in its entirety, or its empty nature, but also knowing on the appearance level, the conventional level, the various attributes of cause and effect, the karmic workings of things, and how these two are together, how they're very fine, but perceiving all of those qualities, those objects of knowledge, without obscuration. So this is alluding to the omniscient mind of a Buddha.
제가 말레 시제신 시외도 다 딘데게 아니 푸순소베고 아니 저 푸순소가 숭 아니 고 푸순소가 시투 딘데게 니 켄즈뉴숨 딘데 요게 아니 도마자 샤게토와 샤게조텔 코자 체스 샤게조 샤게사데 야가라 링망 우슈지 좀된데 릭디 샤제리 뭐라 샤제리 자 샤제 조라고 해야 가서나 아니 조라고 해야 가서나 다 샤제디도 다 담세리도 순다 콘조 릭지젠장 베데 랍제 데제 베 아니 베 딘데기 베 냥아당 릭제당 딘데라 캬바슈지
Okay.
이게기 나네 장다 도마저지도 조차 조 가르차르스나 따와 딘중 셰와 디기다 조바 차송으로 진다디기 따와 딘중 남샤디 셰 두고요 말이다 좀 된데 이제 딘중 남샤디 세 제단 단다 고물로지 강가 투제니에서는 따와 탐제 방법이 담배주네 된서 고남들라 차서 따와 탐제 방법에 치르슬라도 따와 가르방을에서나 따와 냠바디게 방제 아니 따와 양타고 왔다 딘중기 남샤디 세와 인상 아니 디제와 제니지 아니 고담들라야 아니 그저세기 인세 고물로지 디자제고 내가디 단대디단 되어요 레스로.
So what this first verse here is alluding to is the resultant body of a Buddha born of these millions of excellent virtues that we said were kind heart, and the fruit of that was the speech also of those virtues, and then finally the entity of the mind, the omniscient mind. And then at the top, I bow my head to you, foremost of this Sakya. So here, amongst the, let's say, race in India of the Shakya clan, this is the supreme of those, Shakyamuni Buddha, and that class of Indian Brahmins. Because in that kind of Brahmin, lineage or race, they would have studied these things. They would have studied grammar. They would have studied science and all of these fine philosophies. But really, what we're really alluding to here when it says foremost of the Shakyas is when we hear this praise by Nagarjuna. When Nagarjuna praises the qualities of Shakyamuni Buddha, he says, I bow to the foot of Shakyamuni Buddha, who out of loving kindness taught the view of dependent origination. You who have abandoned all views, taught the view for the welfare of living beings. You who have abandoned all views. So it's this line, you who have abandoned all views. So what kind of views have been abandoned? It is these invalid views that things are not dependently arisen that have been abandoned. So all erroneous views have been abandoned. So what really Nagarjuna is praising is that you, foremost amongst Shakyas who taught dependent origination and abandoned the opposite of that, these invalid views, I bow down. Dira.
Oh, that CJ Jerome Ching. CJ Dinala, that Chatham down the water.
Yeah.
Tomajam Dende. Isn't that those turned out ye 10 and it's 6 Matter and a Punzo village to make good Male. Tired to wear a woman soon, Malaysia to Shajazo de la Quaja said, Quibet to return. Or Quibet Duje, any. A child says, Leada, Dirwakasa. Quibet to return. Quibet to return, but must say, I jag in Yambotoya.
Yes.
Oh, that in Degi, that under Chat the child, Luigi Chang, Yiji Chai weapon, Tanda, Nana do the Winza, and Naga Chat, rest Naga Chat, Rorat over the Winza.
Yes. So, really, just in this first verse that Lama Tsongkhapa has composed, praising all of Buddha's qualities here. And then from that sense, I bow my head to you, foremost of the Shakyas. So this is like showing respect or prostration to the qualities that Buddha embodies. So here we know that to pay homage or to prostrate is we can have physical prostrations, verbal prostrations or mental prostrations, and it is a countermeasure to pride. It makes our pride come down, and certainly with these verbal prostrations, when we recite, that's what we're doing.
Tadine Dame Dumba T says, Dame Dumba says that Tendameva or Dumbajum Demba, Tendameva.
No. Dishloka Nipar,
Delaya, that Dame was the Tendameva.
Yep.
Tumbling dinala, Tajatumba Shajato, Nyamba, Dendeji Yore said, Shetu Yomara, Tajatumba Shajatua, Tokba Tang, Chemba Tang, Seve, Yundin, 근데 된된 조직 다디 다저도 마셔도 냠바레 사지 다워 요 말에 될로고 된다 치야 요 말에
Thus,
다디 세이 초스디 세들 구이세 송세 투그세세 근데 용보다 제가 다저도 마셔도 콜리지에 제우셔도 세 다젠진디 투구이세로 송기세디 다저도 마셔도 왜 최선발은 년도에다 란제라 소고다 최망고 실돈 당하란주주 베나 chanju semde de jewe ne de sung se re ngazo daja thamba sheji de sung se cha chogo yore ro sung se no tu ge se de ne de zu ju ge ne pang do ge yuen de chanju semda ning ji dang ngazo ju le dang ran zu ju le da ku long chanju sem jewa de daja thamba sheji de tu ge se ro wo de cha lo ro se ge chok se de cha da de yewe zewo kun ji kun nam ne se changme shin de de nam le yewe zewo kun ji kun nam ne se da yewa da 산제 겨워 창내 되버다 긴 제와 탐제 다디 저 제와 제 거래 심지지 튼 제들어 심지지 튼 바디 매워 제와 인자 아니 장미와 와 신감 장미와 네 구 장미와 된될 냠제 주바 넘버 나서 된제 아니 뒤제 튼제버에 송으로 징티제 네 동자 동바셔지 두발 되버 되래
all right, the Tangwanira slogan. So, and then we're going to the second verse, and we're still looking at the qualities and praising Shakyamuni Buddha. Here, in the last line of the second verse, where it says, "You are the supreme sons of the peerless teacher." Here, peerless in the sense that Buddha is unequaled in this world. There's no one who has the qualities of Buddha's realization or his omniscience or his love. And no one you would find that would equal that in this world. So then, yes, supreme sons of the peerless teacher is like Tombolugi kola ser kuise isn't
luji da luji gone se dajen zindi dajado meshaji tuwe serwa je koluji we jiwo
Ale yeah, that is. Yeah, so from a physical point of view, the Buddha has that's how the signs and marks of a universal emperor are born, endowed with those qualities, if you will. And then the speech gives rise to all of the levels of the practitioners, the hearers, the solitary realizers, and the bodhisattvas by following the Buddha's speech. And then with our minds, if we follow those intentions of Buddha, we can generate great compassion and so forth. So body, speech, and mind. Also praising Buddha, this line here.
미반 잠배야 찾아요. 미팜세 지진 잠복 공부 생 수지로
Yeah.
미팜셀 칼로 미팜셀 가서는 컨덴스 민터스는 다 다자도 메시지도 와데 간디 이거 춘진라 최송 주고라 아니 초주 제와 세제든 다 다자도 메시지도 룽닌제 저라 마음바 잠불링 뒤자라 아니 총고고와 잠불링 데라야 산제 동자직 총고요라서 동자직로 디나라 다 단다 산제 남데 시워로 다 다자도 메시지도 템베 개와 lep샤스 다 다자도 메시지도 와데 잠불링 총고고와 마 페고레스 다 안데 페오도다 데 제베 제잡지 야고고라 제잡들라 아니 제자 참고 공부 고요라 제가 간디엘에 슈베 하도다 만조 팜송스 다자도 마샤제도
알레 파피스
잠불링라 파도 인장 만조 팜송스 다 잠불링 밀 제가 토송스 만조 팜송스 나비 아니 팜송스 라라 다디네 제자 참고 공부 야 틀려서 최직송인데 당한조 팜마송스 팜고면도스 미팜스 만조 팜고면도 따다 제자 참고 공부 다 다자도 마샤제도 나시 최송고도 만조 팜고면도스 미팜 공부세 미팜세 민토단데 텐데스션 중으로
Here, sometimes the Tibetan verses don't match with the English, so we go back to the first line of the English now. I prostrate to Manjushri and Maitreya. So first is Maitreya Buddha. The Tibetan word is Mipam. So this that was very much prophesized that Lord Shakyamuni Buddha would come to this earth from being in Tushita, pure realm. being there. And amongst the 1,000 Buddhas, prophesied that Shakyamuni Buddha would be the fourth. And what happened was there are many deities in this Tushita Pure Land. In this Pure Land, there are, like many Buddhas. And when Lord Buddha came to fulfill that prophecy to this world to teach, then the deities in Tushita realm, Tushita pure realm, became very sad. So hence this word sad. Initially, that it was mipamsongs. Yeah, they became sad. But then, in order to take the seat of teaching in Tushita, Maitreya Buddha, the protector, sat on the throne and performed that task of teaching. So they became unsad, if you will. So that's how Maitreya gets his name, prostrating to Maitreya. It was almost like Lord Buddha came down to this world and they got the loss, Tushita got the loss. But then when Maitreya sat on the throne, they got the profit. That's the way it happened.
미밤 잠배양라 차제로 다 지진 잠배양데 다도 사모 다 디니니 카르덴레스나 지진 참바 공부당 게자 딜라네 아니 노조 주바델라다 단다디 사모 가진 주주 주베 주로와 탑찬주 셈다 닝지단 딘데 냠낸 시세 콩도사데 게자 참바 공부 차로 아니 지진 참바 공부 잠배양데 아니 사모 따주에서 동반이기 남샤하게 and lamji juwe rimba khung du sarawa chagu yuinza ode mibam jambayan la kucha se
so the first line that says I prostrate to Manjushri and Maitreya, here the salutation to Maitreya is that Maitreya disseminates or holds, has the responsibility of disseminating the vast method side of the path, great compassion and so forth. And latterly Manjushri has holding that lineage of the emptiness, the teachings on the profound and lack of intrinsic nature of things, the emptiness side of the path. So prostrating to those two.
Oh yeah, da tiring zo keje shewa dina ne ngaro da susu mezena la nyam labja kharleng gore la yina ta kok den sinye de ngone yongge yoda me ro wa ta ja domba shaje to sanje se de ne chig de ma denje 근속을 집에 준비고 타이르로 공에서 말레이시아 신수 샤제 조들 구자 체에서 다자도 마샤제도 산제에 컨데스 충도로 아니 산제 됐다 규부순 소월되네 중샤 아니 딘데나 시징은 저 용토그로 배다 왕원졸레이나 똑같은 데 기토그로 배 원졸레 어디 사무단데 디 수수 사무단제 곰 디균다 전환 좀 곰 제거라 곰로 데데 잡데가 둘라네 나 곰 자고도 다 곰들에셔다 그러 곰 망부 자고도 지난 단다디 곰는 제곰단 조금 니요래 곰 제조 송디 믹스에게 네 제로 머신 템발 캐줄라 제조 송디데 집에 타남인데 용거여와 당고 제와체 네 제와체에 타들래 양 심네 지대야 곰 잡에도는 양 제와치야 곰디 심 마잉 베토네 제와치야 제와치베도네 곰바요 곰바치베도 제와요 근데 제조 송딩기 믹스에게다 제르머친기 담바 제와진데 요래 제가 단단 람림디 네 다 람치기 아니 프로단 림버로지 도투르버지 다 딘데체 다 람냠슬렘베 림바데 아니 다 람림 코나레 다 람림게 마탄다 송단데 람냠넨지 림바 시샤제 송구요와 이나 단다 디 람림 디 신이든 주다 디마송디 레준데 켈레니 겨왕지 켈레니 군조숨 켈레니 자벨라마 켈레니 어딜 시샤제 송용거 제단다 말아서 단다 딘데랑 참여 인장에다 산이나니네 고든마 조스도 네 텐조든지네 마조 로샤나 고디 식디제 도디 도주 직접 다 찾아도 뭐지 아니 신이든 주도 제메 람림 만차 차스는 시샤나 야무로 뭐라 텐조든지네 초미다와체 아니 딘시체 아니 디네 잡숨제 안 독세샤나 독세제다 주 다데다제 교친도 주숨다 제레 다데 투조시르면도
So then this life, what is our task? Our task is this state of cessation possible or not? Can we get to that same state ourselves in terms of the Buddha Dharma? Can it be done or not? How did it happen in terms of Shakyamuni Buddha? Well, we looked at it in terms of the first verse that Lord Buddha accumulated these excellent causes of virtues and got the result. So the question is now for us personally, can we do it? Can we get the same realizations? Well, we're always saying, and I know you are keen on meditating, and yes, we need to do it. We need to meditate. It's good to have a sustained meditation practice. So then, if we're asking what's the nature of meditation, well, really, initially, as Lama Tsongkhapa has laid out, what's important is that we analyze things thoroughly. So the types of meditation we should be doing are analytical and initially, and then when we're grounded in that, to place the mind single-pointedly on it. So Lama Tsongkhapa is setting forth the union of these two methods of meditation, analytical and placement. So first you check, and you check again, you analyze, and then you place. You single-pointedly place the mind on what you've checked. And then you check some more, and then you place again, and you place and check and place. And you use those two methods so that they become in union, so that they become inseparable from each other. And that is what we've given really here, is this kind of broad overview of the Lamrim. Yeah, the broad overview of the path. Okay, so now the question is, what about the practice? Well, the practice is as it is laid out here in the text with these verses and sequential steps. So beginning with, like how to rely properly on the spiritual friends. What is it? Death and impermanence, perfect human rebirth, cause and effect. Some of these things you will be familiar with. I really think it would be more important if we started with things like perfect human rebirth and looked at death and impermanence, and then perhaps cause and effect and the Four Truths, and perhaps leave relying on the spiritual friend later on in the teaching. Of course, we'll go over it briefly, but we'll go into it more thoroughly later on. I think that's a better way to go about it, but certainly we'll go sequentially 1, 2, and 3. Mm-hmm. Any queries? We'll dedicate here. What do you feel? Okay, so our homework is to recite this because we were going to do it tonight, but we didn't.
You must do homework.
You must.
Page 31. Page 33 for his dedication.
That's with these virtuous actions. Quickly attain the state of a guru, Buddha, lead all living beings without exception. May the King of Dharma, Tsongkhapa's way of Dharma practice flourish.